When the sun comes up over the nation's capital, it also brushes the treetops of an urban woodland located just across the Potomac River in Arlington, Virginia. Birds begin their morning conversations. Breezes begin to stir, and another day begins at Potomac Overlook Regional Park. Potomac Overlook is one of over 20 parks owned by the Northern Virginia Regional Park Authority, which administers over 10,000 acres of mostly undeveloped land in 3 counties and 3 cities in Northern Virginia. Of these lands, Potomac Overlook comprises only 70 acres, but its location, mission, and unique activities make it a significant resource for the region. It's a wildlife refuge, a place for learning about local natural and human history, and it's a place where people can learn, play, work, and discover myriad ways in which human activities are part of our living planet. The picture of Earth from outer space is a powerful image. It allows us to sense the interconnections between any place on our planet with the entire living system. Potomac Overlook is a place where people can learn about, participate in, and celebrate these interrelationships. Each year, people of all ages come to the park to attend educational programs, concerts,
You'd be many miles away.
celebrations, and other community events.
I hope you have a happy Mother's Day next week.
This group, for instance, has come to learn about geology. They're finding that geology is more than just rocks.
It's a piece of sandstone which is porous. It's like a sponge because there's pore spaces in between all those grains.
It tells the story of life evolving on this planet. And as we are now finding out, the rocks are a part of the Earth's living system, just as our bones are an integral part of our bodies. They spend some time indoors, and some outdoors. In addition to educational programs and events, Potomac Overlook offers the community a place to recreate and relax, to take walks, enjoy each other's company in the great outdoors, view the many captivating displays in the park's Nature Center, or perhaps make their way down to the Potomac River. And the park demonstrates ways that human life can be in tune with the cycles of nature. Let's explore Potomac Overlook and find out what surprises it has in store for us. Potomac Overlook is situated on a very distinct and important geologic setting at the edge of the geologic province called the Piedmont Plateau. This is a rolling, hilly area underlain with hard metamorphic rock, like these boulders of mica schist. This rock is very resistant to erosion, although streams such as Donaldson Run do cut through it over long periods of time.
But as we leave the rolling terrain of the Piedmont Plateau and travel down a short distance down to the Potomac River near Washington, D.C., we see a completely different kind of landscape. It's flat and it's composed of soft sediments of the Atlantic coastal plain. In just a few miles from Potomac Overlook, we leave a high, rocky, hard rock terrain and enter the Atlantic coastal plain near sea level.
The geologic boundary between the Piedmont Plateau and the Atlantic coastal plain is known as the Fall Line. Although the park itself is underlain with the hard metamorphic rocks of the Piedmont, if you hike down Donaldson Run to the Potomac River, you'll come to the tidal waters of the coastal plain. The Fall Line is perhaps the most important underlying reason for the location of Washington, D.C. and other major cities, including Baltimore and Richmond. There are 3 reasons for this. First, ships could not travel any further upstream, as explorer John Smith found out in 1608. Second, There is abundant falling water at the fall line, which was used for operating mills. And third, living at this geologic boundary afforded people access to the resources of both the Piedmont and the coastal plain. On either side of this line are different rocks, soils, and even animals and plants. The underlying geology of the area deeply affects our history and natural setting, and visitors learn about this in a variety of ways. Potomac Overlook is reflective of its position at the edge of the Piedmont Plateau. It is mostly forested land with tulip poplar, a variety of oaks, maples, hickories, and a number of other deciduous trees.
Tulip poplar is a fast-growing tree that can grow larger than any other tree species in the eastern United States. Quite a few grand specimens of this species can be found throughout the park. The park's red and white oaks are quite impressive as well. Until recently, a small grove of red oaks grew near the Nature Center until one by one they began to topple in the 1990s. Left behind, their impressive trunks are popular places for children to play. Soon enough, however, these trunks will decompose and go back to the soil from whence they came.
Some of the deadfall is left to return directly to the soil and atmosphere. The park staff also uses a certain amount of wood for landscaping, trail work, firewood, and other local use. Either way, the trees remain an intimate part of the cycles of life on this land. About 2.5 miles of trails wind their way through the forest at Potomac Overlook, along nearby Donaldson Run, and down to the Potomac. There are various access points to these trails. Many of the trailheads can be found along the road that starts at the parking lot and continues a ways past the Nature Center. The presence of such an expansive forested area with so much diversity of life so close to an urban area is remarkable. It is not unusual to see large animals such as deer, raccoons, or even fox. Approximately 140 species of birds have been seen in the park. And the show of plant life sometimes seems endless. As visitors walk along this park road, they will encounter a number of interpretive gardens that offer lessons on local plant and animal life, organic food production, and other ways people fit in with the Earth's living systems. These include native meadows, a butterfly garden, a landscaped area, a vegetable and herb garden, and others. The vegetable garden is surrounded with a fence 8 feet high to keep out deer and 2 feet deep into the ground to keep out groundhogs. This is an educational organic garden run by the Master Gardeners of Northern Virginia.
We grow the basic tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, but we also grow things like soybeans and tomatillas and Jerusalem artichokes so that we can show people the full variety of what they can grow right here in Arlington.
Each of Potomac Overlook's gardens offer practical ideas that visitors can use in their own gardens, and also broader lessons about the relationship between people and natural systems. One garden in particular symbolizes the interrelationships between people and the rest of nature. Called the Indian Circle Garden, it consists of a circle divided by 2 paths that point to the 4 directions. This distinctive motif is used by most indigenous tribes in North America and by many peoples around the world. The Zia sun symbol found on the state flag of New Mexico, for example, has been used for centuries to reflect how human beings are a part of nature's cycles. The staff often refers to it and other similar symbols from around the world during programs, walks, and events at the park. Constructed by Boy Scouts in the early 1990s, the Circle Garden is used to complement a number of the park's programs.
Now what I want you guys to do is let's all come in here to the middle of the circle tree. This is an apple tree, and this apple tree represents the tree of life. And what the Native Americans said is that to be a good whole person, that you had to have qualities from all of the directions.
Each of the garden's 4 directions has a symbolic color, animal, and attribute. On the occasion of this garden's first use for a public program, a bald eagle was seen soaring in circles not far above the heads of the amazed participants. The significance of this goes beyond the timing. The eagle, or the hawk, is the symbolic animal of the East for many Indian tribes. It signifies vision. The red-tailed hawk is a fairly common hawk found over most of North America. It eats mostly rodents, from mice to squirrels, and it is often seen soaring or perched in trees near the clearings where their prey live.
You can see the red tail is the adult plumage of the red-tailed hawk.
At the end of a short path off the park road is the Raptor Display Facility. Here, permanently injured hawks and owls are housed, and the public is invited to view and learn about these magnificent birds. It's not every day that you get to see a red-tailed hawk this close. How big is its wingspan? This little girl found out. Red-tailed hawks are found over much of North America, and it is not unusual to see one flying over the park. Just across the road from the trail to the Raptor facility is the Nature Center, the focal point of the park. This building was a house before being converted into a nature center in the early 1970s. It was built in 1912 by George Mitchell, who purchased the land from Webster Donaldson, a farmer on this land. An auditorium was added to the structure to accommodate groups and activities. The Nature Center houses a wide variety of displays on natural and human history topics. One of the most popular is the living honeybee display.
So, what kind of bees are in here? Lots of worker bees, and there's one bee that lays the eggs. Do you know what that is?
The queen bee.
The queen bee.
The Nature Center also houses other live animals, including fish, turtles, snakes, and others. For over 2 decades, the theme of Potomac Overlook Nature Center has been everything is interrelated. And once we start to look, we find interrelationships everywhere, especially between this place and the human beings that have lived here for thousands of years. Research has yielded a number of clues about the Indians, the arrival of European explorers and settlers, farmers, and the development of nearby Arlington and Washington, D.C. In the 1960s, an archaeological dig was conducted at what was called the Donaldson site. From it came hundreds of artifacts such as projectile points and pottery shards, and the dig also uncovered a circle of rocks that was probably a fire ring. The Donaldson site was most likely used as a summer encampment for Indians of the early woodland period, about 2,000 years ago. In 1608, Captain John Smith sailed up the Potomac River on a mission to make new discoveries and to search for gold. Although he and his men never found gold, they did find the fall line of the Potomac, the present-day Little Falls, just upstream from Chain Bridge. He described this area in his logbook as having mighty rocks growing in some places above the ground as high as the shrubby trees. It is thought that within 70 years of Smith's exploration, all of the native peoples of what is now Arlington were gone, victims of disease or of warfare with settlers and other Indian tribes. The land that is now the park was sparsely settled during the next 200 years. George Mason III, the father of George Mason IV, who wrote the Virginia Bill of Rights, owned much of this land for many years, but he did not live here. In the 1840s, the Donaldson family bought much of the land that is now the park. Robert Donaldson and one of his sons, Webster, farmed corn, wheat, potatoes, barley, and other crops, and raised chickens, hogs, cows, geese, and horses.
The Civil War had large impacts on this land. Now, there weren't any battles fought here, but many forts were built in the area for the defenses of Washington, and tens of thousands of soldiers were stationed in and around them. In an attempt to detect any enemy movement, 2 to 3 mile wide swaths of forest were cleared around each of the forts. With no tree cover, rainstorms easily eroded the soil and created gullies such as this one and many others throughout the park. Today, the trees have grown back, and because of this cover of branches, leaves, and roots, Rain hardly ever flows down these gullies, even during a heavy rainstorm.
When soldiers left the area at the end of hostilities, the Donaldson family retrieved hundreds of Civil War implements, including sabers, bullets, canteens, guns, and many others. The Donaldsons and others continued to farm this land after the Civil War and into the early 1900s. Mrs. White ran an orchard here and sold her apples in nearby Cherrydale. But gradually, the agricultural way of life began to fade as North Arlington became a residential area. By the 1950s, Maywood, Bellevue Forest, Dover Crystal, and other nearby neighborhoods were built. The land that is now Potomac Overlook Regional Park might have been next, but citizens of Northern Virginia recognized the value of this land, in large part due to the foresight and leadership of Tom Richards on the Arlington County Board. Land acquisition for Potomac Overlook Regional Park began in 1966. The park was opened in 1974. Through the millennia, these many peoples have lived with and been a part of this land, and even today we see signs of their presence. When you spend enough time in a place, you begin to sense more fully how the land is alive and that people are part of its cycles. This life is driven by the energy of the sun. For many years, Potomac Overlook has used this symbol to communicate this fundamental fact. The symbol consists of a stylized sun with a circle within it to indicate the earth. The water cycle, life cycles, and other cycles of earth are turned by the energy of the sun. Human activities are intricately connected to these cycles and are indicated by the wheel at the interior of the symbol. On the outside of the sun is another circle that stands for human knowledge. A part of the circle is missing to reflect that human knowledge is always incomplete. We continue to examine ways in which we are a seamless part of life's cycle. Here, a park naturalist uses a bicycle wheel to demonstrate these interrelationships with a visiting class.
In our classroom demonstrations, the matter of this wheel, the steel, stands for all the matter on Earth, so plants, animals, water, air. And when we add energy, we get a stability that wasn't there before. So for instance, when the wheel is moving and I let go with one of my hands, it'll stay up. But when the wheel comes to a stop and there's no more energy in, it'll fall off my hand. On Earth, almost all of these cycles are run by the sun's energy, and the stability is evident when we see the remarkable constancy of our temperature on Earth, despite the fact that the sun's temperature is getting hotter and hotter and hotter, or the stability of the atmosphere, or the constant salinity of the ocean, and many, many others.
Energy flows and cycles of matter underlie an understanding of how life works and are a part of many park programs and activities. The energy cycle, for instance, is a fun and graphic way that is used to help communicate the importance of energy.
In the early 1990s, we undertook an energy renovation here at the Nature Center. We installed energy-efficient windows like you see behind me. We installed insulation, energy-efficient appliances, and other applications, and we ended up saving about 25% on our energy consumption.
Working with the community in 2002, the park installed a solar electricity system that generates about 10 to 15% of the electricity for the Nature Center. A solar water heater and other energy-saving measures have also been added for their practical value and to illustrate how human activities can increasingly be powered by renewable energy. Even when it does not appear as if the sun's energy is at the root of some life process, it always is.
Right here by these leaves that are still hanging on are the leftover stalks of the beech drops. The beech drops are a curious flowering plant. They don't have any chlorophyll, they don't photosynthesize. So what they do is they spring to the surface every fall just to produce seeds, and then their underground portions carry on their life cycle the rest of the year. They live in symbiosis with the roots of the beech tree.
The sun's energy drives all of life's cycles, including human life. The concept that everything is interrelated is well expressed in a brand new scientific theory called the Gaia theory. The Gaia theory has become a mainstay of the educational program at Potomac Overlook Regional Park. This theory gives modern scientific credence to the views of many ancient and indigenous peoples who thought of Earth as being alive. The theory, developed by British scientist James Lovelock during his employment with NASA, proposes that everything on Earth, from bacteria to rocks, human beings to water in all its forms, that all these things are seamlessly connected as a single living system. Earth's living system actively regulates its own environment, its temperature, and other factors, just as our bodies do to survive. We can find signs of this living system everywhere. For example, as we walk through the park, we see ways in which life controls our atmosphere and maintains a wonderful balance.
Every breath of air that we breathe contains precisely 21% oxygen, and it's remained this way in the atmosphere for at least 200 million years or more. The amazing thing about this is that oxygen is a very reactive gas. Here in the pond, we can see, if we roil up the bottom, that methane rises to the surface. You can see the bubbles. These bubbles of methane react instantly with oxygen, yielding carbon dioxide and water vapor. This is just one tiny example of how oxygen is constantly reacting with other chemicals all over the Earth, and despite this fact stays at 21% over time. The Gaia theory suggests that this amazing balance and many other balances of factors and temperature on Earth is due to the control of the entire living system.
Perhaps one of the greatest values of the Gaia theory is that it allows us to understand, better than ever before, how everything is interrelated. It is reflected in art and music. Guided by the Gaia theory, the staff at Potomac Overlook has tried to find ways to harmonize our activities with the living system, using renewable energy and energy conservation, reducing the amount of materials we use, and increasing the percentage of materials recycled rather than thrown away, treating the land as if it were actually alive. Human beings are a part of the circle of life, whether it be through our food and sustenance, the things we build and make, or the things we do. At Potomac Overlook, we not only celebrate these practical things, but also the celebrations themselves. Concerts, birthday parties, and community celebrations are regular parts of life at Potomac Overlook.
At Potomac Overlook, we've ventured into quite a range of activities and programs that aren't usually associated with traditional nature centers. But that's just in keeping with our observation that people are a part of nature.
People in a community are a big part of making the park the best it can be as well. Volunteers help with almost every aspect of park operations, including gardening, landscaping, programs, and special events such as the annual open house or the haunted Halloween hike. Whether we are studying the wonderful diversity of plants, animals, or other organisms, working in the garden, or even enjoying a hike in the woods, our experience can take on a whole new dimension if we appreciate how nature works and how people fit in. Come discover the world in 70 acres, see and experience through this one special place how we are a part of Earth's grand living system.